What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and of course we have to talk about yesterday's Wistoria episode versus the manga chapters 15 and 16 that kind of it was developed from. Now, the first thing I want to mention, the biggest change that they really made here is the first few, like the first scene, really, the one that kind of kicks off before the opening. I won't say it never happens in the manga, but it's literally one cell, not even a page, a cell within a page. And they expanded this whole thing. We'll talk about it here in a minute, but in the manga, we just kind of jump into the conversation between Wingnall and Will, talking about how his magic doesn't work right, and how, you know, as an elf, he's kind of a disgrace. He's having this little pity party here. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I hate to say, because of everything that happened in the later half of this episode, a lot of this early stuff I didn't really talk as much about, and we really need to talk about that today. Because as they're having this conversation, we immediately jump over to Colette, and I can't remember her name. Good grief. Starts with an L. Anyway, essentially the leader of their pack. And they're talking about basically how people that ascend the tower, they're already chosen. Like, there's not really much way that anybody that's in this group is going to be able to ascend the tower. It's not a thing as far as she is concerned. The people that are strong have already been picked out. They might be the best in their, group, but they're not going to get much better than that. They're not, their opportunity has come and went. Everything was basically preordained. And Colette's just really not dealing with this very well, but as far as they're concerned, that is what it is. Now, it seems like, obviously, we're going to find a little something more out, but as the episode progresses, we get back to Wingnall and Will, and he's talking about the High Elf Queen, the one that's the Magiavander, and how they used to know each other, and eventually she was just kind of taken away. And this whole scene, what's really great about this, and I gotta really commend the anime studio on this one, because they took some scenes here and they really brought them to life. Like, there's some scenes here that they did shot for shot in the anime, and it is one of my favorite things about the studio is the fact that they're able to bring these visceral images to life. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. So obviously he's having his little pity party, and Will's like, okay, cool, yeah, we're the same, dude. I got you, you got me. We're on the same page. By the way, there's some mobs coming, so I'll just hold down fort while, you're doing your thing and you get back on your feet. So, and essentially Colette's doing the same thing. She's like, hey, look, I know they say Will's a no talent, but hey, I believe in him. You should believe in him too. You're amazing. You're considered the best in the class. And she's like, yeah, that's it. That's just it. I'm the best in our class. That's kind of where that ends. So, two different perspectives on it here is really kind of what we're getting. But the whole time, Will's just kind of fighting these mobs and taking them out. And old boy's just sitting back there in the back, like having his pity party. But really watching Will and is like, where does he get those where does he get the stamina? Where does he get this power? Where is this level of, I guess, commitment to it really coming from? He's really, really, really trying to figure out what's going on here. And one of the biggest things I kind of forgot to mention, what's really interesting here is while they're kind of having this pity party, there's this whole thing that's going down, and Kiki freaks out, and he uses search magic. He's like, I didn't find anything. There's nothing going on here. And Will's like, the dungeon is birthing monsters. Now, once again, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to make the parallels to Danmachi, where we find out that the dungeon in Danmachi is completely sentient. Essentially, it is the monster's deity, so to speak. And here, very similar. Literally, the dungeon just kind of like births these huge flame monsters that you see right here. And once again, almost shot for shot, things just kind of go down. It's so close and so accurate. I really have very little to talk about. There's so few differences here. And even the dialogue's like really, really, really close. Obviously, the translations are going to be slightly different. And that's just, it is what it is. Words have, multiple meanings. But it honestly just comes down to the translator. But the gist of it is essentially the same. So here, Bell, wrong series. Will is, arguably, Will is essentially like, dude, you could do it. I believe in you. I got this. And he's just like, I don't got this. I don't know what you're talking about. And they just keep going back and forth. And eventually, after just some significant conversation and just really Will building him up, he eventually does let loose. And I didn't mention this before too. This is actually one of the biggest. This is a significant difference here. Kiki does put up the barrier to protect Will, but in the anime it just happens. Like Kiki does it all of her own accord. Here he actually asks Kiki to perform the shield maneuver. So slight difference. It's not the biggest difference in the world, but it is a slight difference. And he keeps going, I believe in you. You can do it. And he really does start to believe in himself. And as he's going through all that, he obviously unleashes the attack we saw in the anime, and those kind of trees come out and just obliterate those fire monsters. It's exactly what they knew from the start they needed to do. And of course, he's like, you are great. You are awesome. You are worthy of my respect. We knew it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly, but we kind of knew that was going to happen. And this is that cell I was talking about where Will kind of admits that, hey, I've watched you practice. I've seen you from time to time. And I really admire you. So, once again, we get that stuff at the beginning, just kind of right here. It's the only place we really see it. And they kind of expounded on it, and it gives just this a little bit more gravity. And I have said, I think the studio really does a fantastic job with the anime in that this was kind of the only thing we got in the manga, and you get an idea. But in the animation, we really need that earlier breakdown. I think it just makes a lot more sense that way. Once again, I've praised the studio time and time again, but stuff like this really, to me, just impresses. So now we get into Chapter 16, and Chapter 16 goes down, once again, very similarly. This is the majority of what I remembered when we did the review, and honestly, I feel bad that I kind of didn't remember a lot of the beginning, and I didn't react as much to it. But this whole episode is just, on fire. And the rewatch that I did in the lead up to this video, there was so much that I completely forgot to talk about yesterday that was just so awesome. But we are going to get into a lot of the stuff that we covered yesterday. And obviously, it's back and forth between those two. I mean, you could tell a lot of the facial expressions happened. This right here is one of the best things. I love when this went down in the anime, and you see the facial expressions here are just identical. Fantastic. These two are just butting heads like fire and ice. Ha 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 ha. You get it. So they even talk about, you could use your magic to make, to make water, but it's very logical. You wouldn't want to waste magic at this point. You're in literally uncharted territory for them, at least. And yeah. And of course, Julius uses search and he doesn't find anything, but Sion, he's like, hey, look, certain things can circumvent the search magic, so you really, really need to be paying attention. And this is, of course, when we see the big horde of the evil sentinels and, all of that goes down. Pretty much, like I said, everything here is almost shot for shot from the anime. They kind of have their back and forth and, I was humiliated. Yeah, I was too. And, you can kind of see they're seeing eye to eye. But Sion gets serious. And this is what I really appreciate about his character. He gets absolutely serious. And he's like, no, I'm done here. And he pulls out that Phoenix move again and just goes ham. But, of course, we have to go back to the 8th floor where the base camp's set up and the evil sentinels are obviously attacking everyone up there. And in the anime, this is pretty ominous, but one big difference is the hand is actually all the way over this dude, and before like anything really takes place. Here, you get an idea of it, but I think the difference is the perspective that you would get between the anime and the manga. Obviously, I think this is a gravity enough for the manga, but in the anime, that hand is all the way over him. Like, it is nuts. And obviously, he does like the big beheading magic. I don't even think he calls it beheading magic. He just says the magical name, and you just see all this stuff happening. So if there's one difference that I would say here, and it is worth noting, in the anime, they're all like these crazy chains that like wrap everything up, and then like, you know, the chains seem to be the things that are doing the beheading. Here, they're literally just like giant bladed anchors that just drop on everything. I think the chains make a lot more sense in hindsight. I honestly think that because there's so many people around and there's so much going on, if you're dropping stuff like this out of the sky, let's be real, you're going to hit some civilians. You're going to hit some people that are just not involved in this at all. Or, you know, some people that are being attacked or whatever. And obviously his whole demeanor is, oh well, he even said at the beginning, some of y'all gonna die. It's just how it goes. It's life, right? But I do think the whole chain thing for the anime makes a lot more sense. That's one. Actually, funny enough, I didn't even notice this difference when we first watched it because you have the chains right here. But those are giant, like, anchor-looking blades. Like, basically, it's some kind of, like, a fling or a flail of some sort. But yeah, like, that is a significant difference, and I literally just noticed it, I hate to admit. Sometimes when I get into the viewing, I just get into the viewing and I'm enjoying it. Like, I'll be real. There are times where I have to pause, go back, no, you're supposed to be critical, stop enjoying it as much. But yeah, which sounds weird, but it is a thing. It is totally a thing. And just like in the anime, Werner comes down, picks up Edward, and they just kind of take off. And everyone's like, dude's got a flying dragon. Like what do they call them? Sky Racers or whatever. And he's just going ham. They're like, that's crazy. And that's when they find out that the party's on the 11th floor. Which, of course, we come back to Colette, an old girl, whose name I do not remember, and I probably will not remember, and I even recited it 4 times before I started this video, and I still don't remember, but whatever. That is how my old man brain works. So they're dropping these stones, or Colette's dropping these stones, basically the breadcrumbs, and they have their whole back and forth, and she's like, I'm sorry, I put you in danger, and Colette's like, well, I did kind of come, you know, unannounced. And they have their whole back and forth, and that's when we get these footsteps. Now, I think this was well done in the anime, but dare I say it was actually better here in the manga, only because all you see are the footsteps. There's not a lot of detail here or anything like that. Like, the footsteps in the anime really gave away what was coming. Here, you just see footsteps, and then you turn around, and then you see the foot there. But if you pay close attention, like, obviously when you're flipping pages, you're like, oh, okay, foot, right? Foot. There's a distinct difference. Close enough because you have the white sole, the dark foot, whatever. That's a very pointy foot, though. This has a little bit different gravity to it. It's still the light sole and the darker foot, but the cuff is rolled up there. Like, you see there's slight differences between the two. This has got a little bit more detail and a bit of a seam there. And this is just kind of like just a regular boot cut. So they're giving you the impression here that this is happening. But what do they come across? Sion. And in the anime, the one thing I do like is when they first come into this room, they see the big pile of sentinels. They don't see him standing on top of it. They see this frame right here, which is just profound. You don't really get that close-up of him on top there. You just see, like, you do after the fact. But the first thing they see is, like, this carnage and him on top, like, yeah, that was me. And Julius is like, I helped him. It was a group effort. Stop taking credit. So pretty much everything here kind of goes down. But the whole time it's like, so what's going on with Colette and old girl? Like, what's happening here? Liana. I don't know how I can't not remember that name, but I just can't. And as we know from the anime, it is Professor Bruno. Now, another big change here. In the anime, this head is all messed up, but here it just looks normal. Though it is very much trying to show you that he's got, like, those eyes are dead. Like, not even like, oh, he's just having a bad day. No, these straight up and unalived like crazy. So, the face isn't all bloodied and roughed up. It's just a face. But those eyes, man. Those eyes. And, of course, the head drops off. Whoopsie. Now, one thing I kind of don't necessarily like as much here, because the head does fall off. And here there's two heads. He's holding a head all of a sudden. Here there's no head. So, what's up with that? But they corrected the anime. He's always holding the head. He's literally got like a second head that he's just chilling with. And what another huge difference. And one place where the manga is just insane. Yeah, this back and forth, and I can't remember the other dude's name, but they mention it like once here. But they show up, and it's like, the Duke wasn't able to finish them off. Like, who's the Duke? And Mars, that's the guy's name, Marze. And he's like, what are we doing? And Marze's like, nah, we gotta go, man. We gotta go. But this dude, when he grabs that head, now in the anime we saw all the stuff, all the squeeze, but then the head just kind of pops. Here, that is gruesome. That is way more graphic. There's no way in hell they get away with that in the anime. But I love it. I mean, gory, terrifying, but they are baddies. It kind of be what it be. At the end of the day, bad guy's just going to do what bad guy's going to do, right? So anyway, so these guys are just, basically it's just like the anime. They show up, and I even love the fact that that Headless here, who I originally thought when he first showed up, he's like a familiar. He's clearly his own character here. They've got their own things going on, but how he's got no head. Maybe he did like a magic spell that went wrong, and that's why he's lost his damn mind. I have no idea. Maybe that's his real head. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But he's like, we're just your average baddies. We're just your average villains. No big deal, But, just like in the anime, they kind of have their little back and forth, and he's like, all right, cool. I want your heads. And, of course, Will shows up and just wrecks out their little magic spell with his sword. And that's pretty much, everything just goes down exactly like you would expect. They're like, oh boy, ain't got no head. What's up with that? And he's like, yeah. They're adorable. I love this. The line in the manga is like, look at all those cute little heads. You got problems, dude. We could call it separation anxiety if you would let me. I wouldn't let me if I were me, but, I'm doing it anyway. And, of course, things just go down, right? Will is knocked out, and, of course, we had the tree pop up, and, he's just like, I love the little LOLs. He's just like, I like you guys. And, it literally is just like it is in the anime. And, of course, as what is this? I even just said his name a few minutes ago. But anyway, as he's dragging Headless off, he's like, we gotta go. Things are getting hairy. The teachers are coming. We gotta boogie. And he's like, okay, cool. By and by, say hi to Duke for me. And once again, just like in the anime, like perfect. The only thing that they did differently in the anime is all of these things kind of like pop up one by one, and it really gives you some gravity to this scene, where here it's all just kind of there. I will say in the anime, when it did happen, I was like, why would they pop up one by one? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the same rate, it looks really cool. And they're like, what's going on? What's happening? And then, of course, bam! It's the evil Grand Duke. And that is pretty much the end of Chapter 16. From this point on, we are now getting into Chapter 17, which is the beginning of Volume 5 of the manga, if you want to follow along. So the whole next episode takes place in Volume 5, and I'm willing to bet we will finish up Volume 5 for the end of the season of the anime. So, if you want to follow, if you want to catch up, go pick up Volume 5. Read ahead. We got 2 weeks. I don't know, honestly. I don't think they've announced the official end date, but I don't think this is one of those series that's going to be granted like a 2-season run, especially with Danmachi coming up next season. So I'm expecting about 2 more episodes, and then we will get the conclusion of our at least this season of our story. Make sure you guys subscribe. Basically, once the season is over with, we'll be covering the manga and catching up. So if you guys haven't subscribed, if you want to, if you've been loving the story and enjoying it so far, let me know in the comments as well. And I'll be back with more Wistoria coming up real soon.